Record. And so Mark, I'm gonna spotlight you just so everyone can see you properly. And yeah, I'm delighted to have you here, and we're so grateful to have you share your insights as an artist. So thank you so much for agreeing to come along.
It's certainly my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here and to talk to the club, share my experience, and share the knowledge that I can.
Thank you.
Would you like me to just begin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't know if we were still waiting for more people, but welcome everyone.
I'll let people in as they come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone. I am hopefully gonna give some insight today in how to demystify some parts of the art experience and the journey that we go on as artists in terms of how we build career and how we get the fulfillment and satisfaction that we want out of our art while still focusing a little bit on success and how that can happen. So I'm going to be starting and ending with what I think is the most important part of the journey, which is perspective and our own personal perspective, how we view ourselves, how we view our art, and how we view the connection and the ontology it has with the world around us. To that note, your work is valid. You are an individual biological living thing with very specific experiences. You don't really share the perceptions and the effects of these experiences, even if you share them with other people. They are intrinsically personal to you. And in that way, there's something that you have to express that is singular and is different. And that holds a validity that is really important, and for me is something that I keep very safe and very close to my chest. I feel that validity allows us access to authenticity. It allows us access to those spaces in ourselves where we're not just accepting who we are as artists and accepting what we're doing, but we're allowing ourselves to do those things really, really readily. That authenticity speaks to audiences in the clearest way. Nothing speaks to an audience like authenticity. When they feel you, when they know that a piece they're looking at has your voice behind it and they're hearing it, that has the most resounding effect on people. And sometimes it can be really surprising pieces that do that. And I actually just heard a story about that, but sometimes it's the pieces that we don't know. So again, validity in our artwork is so important in terms of accessing that authenticity, accessing the allowance and the acceptance that we can build for ourselves. To that note, we want to be completing work. The number one enemy really of any artist is not completing work. It's either not working or it is the piling up of many pieces that are maybe still need some attention or just unfinished, or we left in the middle of them. It seems like a simple thing to overcome, but it is certainly a problem that I've seen many artists have to go through, where they just don't feel that they're finishing some things, or they're just piling up work that needs that little bit extra of attention to finish it. When we are finishing our work, when we're completing work, we are much better prepared to grab opportunities that may just come at us out of nowhere. So if a gallery owner or a cafe owner that you've dropped your business card off with calls you and says, hey, our artist for the month just canceled, we need someone to hang tomorrow, can you do this? If you have a mass of completed work, you're going to be able to say, yes, absolutely. If you have a number of different types of work, you're going to be able to say, yes, absolutely. What kind of work would you like? This is about keeping our bags packed, making sure that we are prepared for opportunities that may strike out of nowhere. And as artists, they happen readily. The more people that we're in contact with, the more spaces that know waiting for exposure that we pop up and happen. So keep those bags packed, complete your work, finish it, make sure that it is quality, that you feel good about it, that you're accepting and allowing yourself to feel the validity toward what you're doing. To that end, I think it's a really good idea to diversify your work as well, especially in terms of being able to grab more opportunities that come. In my bio that Zoe read, you heard about literary work that I do. I think that's important because it's still artistic, and it certainly speaks to me and what I do as an artistic expression. So I keep that in my artist bio to show that there is diversity, and maybe there are opportunities that are brand new that will be looking for someone who has experience doing a number of diverse things, so that they already have that openness to whatever's being asked. That's yet another opportunity that we might be able to grab as artists. So diversifying what we do, the mediums that we're using, the size of our work, whether we're illustrating or painting. And I think the Art Club does a great job of exploring a lot of different types of artwork and a lot of different spaces that you can work in. And that's great. I really suggest fostering that, nurturing that, have that in your work, and you do want to explore and experiment. It's going to help your expression, and it's going to help build more opportunities for you in the long run. One of the things in terms of completing work and diversifying work and wanting to show our work is a huge obstacle for artists, and that is articulating our process and our intent. We really want to focus energy on developing that ability, that skill to articulate, whether it be spoken or written, articulating our process, how we work, what we do, as well as the intent of our work. And this can be on a greater scale in terms of the body of work and what you do as an artist. We want to consider that, but you also want to consider it for pretty much each piece that you do. We want to be able to talk about our work. It allows us an easier connection to gallery owners, curators, clients, business owners who might be looking for commercial art. Being able to speak about our work, it's rare, and it just increases your availability for success immensely. And I'm going to get back to that in terms of how that affects commissions specifically, because when we can articulate our process and our intent, we get to pass that on to people that buy artwork from us. And then they get to pass it on in turn to anyone who sees that artwork. That has a compounding effect that is really helpful in getting new commissions and new clientele. So to this effect, you're developing this idea of who you are as an artist, of what you do. You're accepting your validity and finding this authenticity. You're defining and articulating your intent and your purpose and your process. And now it's time to take that and to put it into an artist bio, an artist resume, and a portfolio. And these are the three ways that we represent ourselves as artists to other people, specifically gallery owners, print media, corporations and companies, the commercial spaces. Our bio is really important. You want to have a short form and a long form bio. What you heard Zoe give for me is my short form bio. It's very much to the point. I try to be very concise, but it as many parts of who I am as an artist and personal experience that are going to affect my expression and therefore affect my artwork. I try to hit on those points, as well as giving a little bit of backup information, where you're from, and a little bit of information about what kind of accomplishments you have. And that can be anything, even if it's just hanging in a cafe, you can include that in your bio. You should. It should include a little bit of information about you, a little bit of information about you as an artist, and that should be really poignant. And then a little bit of information about what you're doing and where you've put your artwork. So that's your short form bio. You can create a long form bio from that. And really the long form bio is just extending that information into 3 paragraphs instead of just 1 paragraph. So the first paragraph is more about you personally, your experience, where you live, what you do, what your focus is as a human being. The second paragraph is how those experiences and those character traits affect your artwork, what you're expressing, what you're looking to do, what the voices you're looking to find, or the voice that you're already using is. And then the last paragraph would cover all of your accomplishments as an artist. And you can include, again, anything is good for that, even if it's just showing on social media, or talking about the number of followers that you may have on social media. Artists normally have between 200 and 400 followers maybe on social media, and it takes years and years to develop followings. So this is something that actually speaks to people and can be used as a positive thing on our resume. So bio turns into long form bio, short form bio turns to long form bio. This turns into our resume. And I have two resumes. I have a professional resume, which I don't keep updated at all. And then I have my artist resume, which I keep updated constantly. Just always keep your bio updated and your resume and your portfolio. So this is my artist resume, and this is available. I'm going to try and put this available on my website. It is one page. There are only 3 sort of titles. There's what I've done as a freelance artist, what I've done as a fine artist and an illustrator, what I've done as a writer. And then there is a little bit of educational experience that has to do with art or would be creatively associated. If you want to include greater educational experience on your artist resume, you can, but it's not necessary. As well on here, I have references, I have contact information, I have skills, and I have a list of my exhibitions. So anytime that I've exhibited, those are all on there as well. And you want to extend that as it goes. You want to make sure that you keep that updated. Having an artist resume is a great thing to be able to include with your portfolio. When you walk into a gallery, or when you're sending your portfolio to a print media company or to an online media source, something like that. Having the resume gives them a full idea of who you are as an artist. Having that bio gives them a closer idea of who you are as a person. And then having the portfolio, that's the visual representation of you as an artist. So in terms of portfolio, you want to make sure that you're keeping a very close eye on quality. So you're picking your best work to put into your portfolio. You're making sure that the work that you're including is properly represented, accurately represented. So the photographs accurately represent color, texture, all of it. We don't want to present something in a photograph in our portfolio that then we can't produce in real life. A gallery owner is going to ask what happened. So important that they be accurate representations of our work. Our portfolio can be digital and physical. It's great to have both. A digital portfolio can generally be a little bit longer, and you can build more than one to sort of hone in on different opportunities. So for me as an artist, I'm an experimental multimedia artist. I have digital collage work. I have illustrated work in ink that I did by hand. I have paintings. I have video work. I can build many different portfolios, each one specific around a type of medium that I'm working in, or I can build one that really looks at the full diversity of me as an artist. I can offer those digitally for anyone to look at and peruse those together. In terms of the physical resume, or the physical portfolio rather, you want to keep it concise. My suggestion is to not go over 15 pieces of artwork, and really I think that's too many. 12 is where I think the sweet spot is 12 pieces of artwork that you say, I'm going to physically take copies of these into a space. And you can do this, take the portfolio in yourself and you have one, or you can get them made into copies, and you can get copies of your portfolio made that you drop off to different spaces so that people can peruse them at their leisure. That's choice and finance. I have a one portfolio. I don't have printed resumes, but I'm very frugal and I can be a cheap person at times. So it's definitely choice. Making sure that we have the portfolio is just so vital, though. It is, again, that visual representation of you as an artist. And it's a way for companies, organizations, galleries to see what you have to offer and make sure that we keep it updated. Very important on all ends to keep these things updated. So in speaking of galleries, and talking about galleries a lot more, galleries are a huge pain in the butt for artists, and it's a huge source of frustration for a lot of artists. It's also a daunting situation. So when I first started researching, trying to get my work into galleries, every single article I came across started with the same concept, and it did not sit well with me, and it still doesn't. It's really nebulous and I don't like it, but it's a harsh truth. Our work needs to be gallery worthy. Gallery worthy. Your work needs to be, make sure your work is gallery worthy. Okay, that's great. How do I do that? How do I do that? Well, the best way to do that is to go and visit other galleries. Not for comparison, not to build some unattainable expectation for yourself as an artist, but specifically to look at how work is presented and what the work is that's being presented. So some galleries you go to, it's all photorealistic illustration or painting, and they really focus on that. But you'll notice how things are matted and framed. You'll notice the completion of the work and the attention to detail so that it looks like it's meant to hang on a wall, meant to be seen by many, many people. So that's really the best way for us to develop an understanding of how we can take our own work and elevate it to that gallery worthiness. We already know that our work is valid. We already know it's good. Your work is valid and it's good. Now it's about taking it to that next level and saying, how do I take this piece and make it shine, and put it in the right space? So really that has to do with framing and making sure that if it's a piece that we can't frame, that it's finished well enough that it's going to feel appropriate in the gallery setting. It's going to feel like it is finished, like it is done, like it's been completed, and where it's going to sit has been thought of. So certainly framing our work, making sure that the professional presentation is there, quantifiably assessing the quality of our work, making sure that we're saying, I'm only going to take my best pieces to put into my portfolio or to bring to the gallery. In terms of suggestion for gallery and advice, my biggest piece of advice if you want to break into galleries is to start with juried exhibitions. These are normally open to all different types of artists, and they're open to a greater, usually geographic area. And it's normally a nominal fee for you to enter 1 to 3 pieces. You almost always get chosen to be in the show. So your odds to be chosen to be in the show are far greater, and it leads to exposure and an opportunity for sales. And that's really what you want to bring into that space with you. If you get into a juried exhibition and you are accepted and a piece of work is hanging on a wall, don't concentrate on winning the juried exhibition or winning the money. Instead, concentrate on the fact that you've done something as an artist to gain exposure and to gain an opportunity to sell work. And if you're keeping that positive perspective and keeping our perception of things in the right space instead of just building expectation constantly, we can feel really good about what we do. That's something that you then add to your artist resume. I was in this juried exhibition. I love doing juried exhibitions. It's also a fantastic way to meet other artists. So when you see someone's work on the wall, a very good friend of mine is named Sylvie. She lives in San Francisco. And I never would have met her if I didn't enter a juried exhibition here in New York that she also entered. I saw her piece on the wall, looked her up, found her on Instagram, and now we talk pretty much every day. So that's something else that can come from juried exhibitions, is a beautiful connection to another artistic mind and someone else who's trying to express themselves, and also someone who's doing what you're doing, trying to get that exposure, trying to move forward and keep their career moving as an artist. And it's really validating and fulfilling to just have a piece in a juried exhibition. Who cares if you sell it or not? Honestly, the vibe, the energy that you get from knowing that your piece is hanging somewhere with 200 or 300 other artists and people are walking through and looking at it, that can be its own reward and its own version of success. So I definitely suggest starting with juried exhibitions. Don't concentrate on winning again. In the meantime, communicate with the director of the gallery or the owner of the gallery, the curator, whoever's there, about what opportunities already exist that you might be able to take opportunity from, that you might be able to use, and also start normalizing asking if there are opportunities that the gallery would be willing to create. And really this extends to commercial businesses and online media sources, print media sources, journals, everything else. There are a lot of galleries now that are choosing to take a month out of the year, so many weeks out of the year, to feature neurodiverse artists only, as a way to diversify the artists that they can show, as a way to diversify the art that they're showing, as well as a way to give opportunity to folks who don't always have the same availability of that opportunity. For a lot of us, it's related to education. Some galleries are really hardcore about education. And in a neurotypically standardized educational system, that can be daunting for an autist. I didn't want to go to art school. I also felt that it would be very daunting. So sometimes these opportunities where it's a month of featuring neurodiverse artists, that's definitely something you want to take advantage of. You want to feel good about that because we deserve these opportunities. I know at times it can feel weird to take these opportunities. Don't feel weird about it. Jump at those opportunities, and also jump at the opportunity if the gallery owner or the curator says, no, we don't currently have a time that we're featuring neurodiverse artists in the gallery. You can ask, well, when might we work that out? Is there any willingness for the gallery to make that choice to say, yeah, I do want to feature neurodiverse artists? And you can also say, hey, well, I'm part of the Autistic Art Club, and I know other neurodiverse artists who will probably want to show their work as well. There's so many ways to manipulate. That word has a negative connotation and it shouldn't. There's so many wonderful ways to manipulate opportunity and to open it and to create it, and to, in the meantime, be creating opportunities for other people. So it's not even intrinsically selfish. We can feel good about these things, but normalizing asking about these opportunities and normalizing asking about creating new ones, I think is, or has been for me, a huge part of why I feel successful as an artist and why I've been able to continue as an artist and why I've been able to clean fewer and fewer houses. My main job was cleaning houses, and that's a business I've owned for a little over 20 years now. Very good at it. It was very lucrative, but it was never something that I wanted to do. I don't know who really wants to do that. More power to you if you do. But I always wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to do it on my own terms. I wanted to do it so that it was satisfying and fulfilling for me, so that I felt successful at it. Not tied to financial expectation, personal expectation, much stronger. But that idea has just extended things for me and opened up an entire world for me. Normalizing asking about opportunity, normalizing trying to create opportunity anywhere I can. My goodness, the amount of things I've been able to do and the people I've been able to meet, the things I've been able to learn, fantastic. Much of what I've said about galleries is also pretty much the same way that you can approach print media and online media sources that may have opportunities for artists looking for illustration, looking for paintings, looking for artwork, to match with different, journals, things like that. Start the same way. Make sure that you're looking at the journals, you're looking at the print media or the online media source. You're looking at the artwork that they normally choose and that they normally show. Does your artwork fit in here? Does one of your medium styles fit in there? Does one not? Is this journal just really not for you and you just need to find a different one? I've definitely come across that. But paying attention to what these curators and editors are prone to choose in the past helps you really identify where they're most prone to choose you in the future. So get to know these spaces. Make sure again that you're going to need your biography, you're going to need your resume, and you're going to need your portfolio. And you want to keep your resume and your biography as a part of your portfolio so that somebody, if you hand them that, they're going to get all of you. And you can stand there dead quiet until they ask you a question and they want you to talk. But then you're going to have that ability to articulate your intent and your process. And they're going to feel like there is a whole artist in front of them and someone that they really want to work with, someone that they can trust, who's going to come through. A lot of artists don't come through and are flighty and forget or just decide that they're not going to do things. So if we can build that rapport and that kind of connection, that solidity of connection off the bat, do it by all means. And as well, in terms of print media and online media sources, journals, things like that, any kind of art can be an illustration. Illustration literally just means that there is a visual that has been derived from or depicts something that is written. So there's a lot of room to manipulate there. There's a lot of room to open different pieces up to different types of interpretation. Finding those spaces as artists where we can wiggle is good, because that gives us, again, more option for opportunity. We want as many opportunities as we can. Art doesn't pay a lot. And if we can double the spaces, triple, quadruple the spaces where we're trying to pull that money in, it can start paying more. And that's what happened with my house cleaning business. Is art started paying more. And I felt more successful. I was building more opportunity as a result. And I was able to stop cleaning as much as I was. Sorry that I kind of had to go back to that, but I just realized that I got a little non sequitur there. Regardless, though, it's these little successes and these little movements as artists. Hey, I have a resume now. When I completed my resume, I was excited. And it was energy that I got to use toward my art career. Don't discount these tiny bits of energy. They're really important. They're really helpful. So next we can talk about marketing. There's so many things that are asked of us as artists, and this is yet another space that we need to fill, is the marketing director. And marketing can be a complete pain in the butt. It is a strange space to be in. It can cost a lot of money. It can produce very little in terms of sales or exposure. So that's a really important part of the marketing aspect of work. You want to make sure that if you are putting out money for marketing, that it is going to translate in some way to exposure or sales. First step with that is a business card. That's your first step in marketing. That's something that you can leave behind at cafes. It's something that you can leave behind with clients and people who have bought commissions from you. It's something that shows that you are taking this seriously and that it is important to you. To that note, make sure that your business card has either an example of your work on it or has your logo on it, if you have a logo as an artist. So I have two business cards. I have one that has, it's very plain, but this is a digital collage that I did on one side. And then on the other side is collage and illustration in ink. So handmade, digital, immediately shows diversity as an artist for anyone that I hand that to. Because the pieces are pretty intricate, I wanted to go with a really minimal background. This is my other business card. This is just my logo on one side, and then my logo and my information on the other side. And this is what I'll leave with people who have bought commissioned pieces from me and with clients. That's the one that I'll leave with them because it's very open-ended. The other one is this one is the one that I use when I go into galleries. If I'm going to leave a card at a gallery, or if I'm going to leave a card at a cafe, I want someone to be able to see my work. Having the more nebulous business card that just has the logo on it is really helpful with commissions, because maybe the commissions that sell for you, like me, and this is true for me, are not the normal work that you do. So it's not great for people to have an example of work that is really disparate from the commission that they saw hanging on someone's wall. Having a business card that just has a logo, there's no way for me to end up in that trap. So that was my choice. That's kind of just something that I chose to do. Having a business card is a great idea. Also with marketing, share as much as possible. Even if it's just on social media, this is a way for you to share your work. Make sure that you're hashtagging. Instagram allows 30 hashtags for any post. Make sure you're using all 30 hashtags, because that's a way for you to connect with other artists, with art professionals, art organizations, commercial organizations, so many different spaces. I've been approached so many times by people that I did not follow, did not know, and have gotten opportunities simply from including hashtags. Change up your hashtags. Make sure that you're not using the same ones all the time. Look at other people's hashtags. If you see someone's having success with a post or with followers, look at what hashtags they're using. Start copying some of those. But share as much of what you do and who you are as an artist as possible. That is a fantastic marketing idea. To that end, you want to match the theme of your social media or the theme of your website or both to the vibe of your work. Make sure that when someone goes to your website or goes to your page, they're feeling you intrinsically right off the bat. They don't really even need to look at one of your pieces of work. What's great is that most social media and websites now kind of already focused on that idea, where there's an aesthetic that can be followed. But grab your vibe and own your vibe. Find the vibe of your work and believe in that and sink a lot of time into that. Use that to extend to your business card, to your website, to your social media. All of those spaces can benefit from that. In that way, our audience has a much easier time identifying our work on site without looking at the name underneath it, without needing to see anything else. And that's really what supplies such a beautiful type of fulfillment as an artist. When someone tells you that your voice comes through in that way, where I don't need to look at the name that's under your post, I know that it's your work right off the bat. It not only means that they've been looking at your work and ingesting it and digesting it, it means that you've been putting out enough work that they are getting this idea and this greater idea of who you are as an artist. And it means that you're really affecting someone. It means that your voice is getting through, it's being heard. So share everything. And know that your audience is going to respond to that and have a much more positive idea of you as an artist in that way. Again, in terms of purchasing marketing space on social media and ad times, I think if you're doing it locally, it's almost always worth it. If you're doing it on social media, it's almost never worth it. That's what I've found. That could be a very different situation for you. But I saw that piece of advice a few weeks ago, not to delve into these marketing spaces that ask us to put out financial resources unless we feel really positively about what they're going to yield in return. And there's going to be some reciprocity. Commissions, fantastic way to market yourself. And this is also a fantastic way to make money as an artist. Commissions, commissions, commissions. If you get one person to commission your work, or one person who's got work of yours hanging on their wall, you can then use word of mouth as your marketing. And it asks nothing of us in terms of our own energy, let alone any kind of financial input. So making sure that we have that business card, making sure that we're able to articulate our intent and our process means that when we have a client who's commissioned a piece of work, we can share that business card. They have that, they can pass that on to someone else. And in the meantime, they can take the confidence they have in describing the work that's hanging on their wall and articulate what we articulated to them. They can share our vision. They can share what we've done in our expression with someone else. That confidence that they have in sharing that is such an energy that's going to pass along to that person who's questioning whether or not they want one of those pieces on their own wall. And they're going to take that business card and they're going to call you. The better able we are to articulate ourselves and our intent and our artwork and what we were doing, the quicker that business card is going to get passed and the quicker we're going to get that phone call. To that end, very specific advice in terms of making money. If there's any way for you to develop a portraiture style in what you do. I'm an abstract artist. I don't do anything that's really realistic almost ever. I developed a portrait style, though, that I feel really good about. It has easily been the most lucrative thing I've walked into by light years. It has just been one person after the other. One person sees someone hanging on a wall. That person says, "Oh, that's me." And then they're able to explain how it's them, why I made the choices I did, why it's the colors it is, why it's the texture it is. And that other person who's asking about it wants one so badly. They want something on their wall that's them. People like portraits of themselves, of their family members. It's really cool to have, and it's neat to have a lot of different styles. So it is really the number one place I can tell you to put your energy as an artist if you're looking to make money. And if you want to get your foot in the door, give one or two or three of them away to people who you know are going to hang them in their homes, to people who you know are going to have a family member or somebody over for a dinner party or something else who's going to talk about it. Even giving those 2 or 3 paintings away can then yield a lot coming in and can open opportunity. So portraiture style, I didn't figure that out until probably 3 or 4 years ago. So it's been very late in my journey that I figured this out. Take that knowledge and see what you can do with it, run with it, try it, experiment, understand your validity too, hold on to it and allow it. Portraits. Next thing I'm going to talk about is pricing artwork. Pricing artwork is wonderful. It's so confusing and it's so personal. It's so subjective. It can be based on so many different things. I've known artists who have an hourly wage that they've figured out for themselves that is based on tool usage and energy usage and time and all different kinds of things, experience as an artist. Really up to you how you can build that. You can build a pricing guide for yourself. Always make sure, though, that you are prioritizing and valuing your engagement. As in, prioritize and value your engagement. We never want to charge what we think people might pay. And instead, we want to charge what the work is worth. That's really loose, but important advice. It's not specific. It's not going to tell you exactly how to price your artwork. But the idea is that we don't want to sell ourselves short when what we're doing is intrinsically singular and is probably speaking to a really special form of expression, especially for people in this group, for neurodiverse individuals, autistic individuals, your expression and what you have to bring through creation, what you have to transmit and communicate, translate, is inherently more rare. So that speaks to the validity, and it speaks to the authenticity, and it should speak to your pricing. It doesn't mean everything should be $10,000, okay? But at the same time, I've seen people charging $30 for artwork that I ended up paying $200 for, where they said, okay, here's my PayPal or my Venmo. I want $30 for this plus shipping. And I say, here's $200, whatever the shipping is, just cover it and then keep the rest, because you need to charge more for your work. So make sure that you're valuing and prioritizing your engagement. Don't sell yourself short, and don't base it on what you think people might pay for your work. If you know that something's worth $500, it's worth $500. Go with your gut, go with your heart, go with your brain. Follow those things. You'll find a pricing situation that works for you. To give you an idea what I do personally, I each year decide what the lowest amount of money is that I'm going to charge for a commission piece. Commission pieces are really where I make my money. And that's really what I consider when I'm looking at my art career over the next sort of few months, the next year of time. And I say to myself, okay, this year I'm not taking on every piece will be at least that amount, if not more. And that for me is a way to deal with inflation and make sure that I'm taking care of myself, making sure that I'm prioritizing my engagement and the value of what I'm doing. I take a lot of time to do artwork, a lot of time, hours every day out of my life. And then I'm also working outside of that. So we want that engagement to be fulfilling and balanced by what we're getting in return. All of this idea in terms of marketing and the commissions and the talking to different gallery owners, talking to different print media, is all about building a network and all about building opportunity. And hopefully I have just really said create opportunities, as many as you can. Hopefully I've said it 100 times now, because it's really something that you can do as an artist. It's something that we can sink our fingers into, that especially because of the space that we're working in, this very subjective space that is the art world, people are more open to these new ideas and these new spaces where we say, hey, what about creating this opportunity? So certainly in terms of building a network, finding those people who are, they don't have to be like-minded, but who are also creative, who are, maybe just media adjacent to us, but maybe have insight to other opportunities. That's a really great thing to do. And you can hone in specifically dependent upon what kind of art you do. If you're someone who works in pencil and ink, tattoo shops are always looking for new designs. If you are someone who does colorful work that has a lot of energy, and maybe has a cartoonish aspect or a playful edge, commercial work might be a really great place for you to be delving into and developing a more commercial business-based network. And that's all about talking to small businesses, calling the spaces that are around you and seeing if there are opportunities, or identifying them. Hey, we have a local brewery who just opened up, and I know that they're going to need designs for their beer cans or their beer bottle labels. Maybe I have something that would fit that. You can take what you do as an artist and you can start seeking out those opportunities by using that idea of where are other things working and how does my work fit in with that? And then where can I build those opportunities? Where can I create those opportunities? In the meantime, throughout all of this, again, yet another thing that speaks to how many different hats the artist needs to wear. We need to be really mindful of the balance between expectation and fulfillment. And I've been speaking to these the whole time as well. But this is really important. Please do not sacrifice a beloved or fulfilling special interest or personal activity to financial expectations or to external or social pressure. Your art, which is what we're talking about, is for you, and it does something for you, brings something to you. It supplies you with energy. It gives you a space to communicate. It gives you a safe space to maybe express things that you can't express in regular life. It gives you a space to talk about things that you can't talk about in regular life, maybe that you don't feel comfortable. Wow, keep that sacred. Wow, keep that safe. Don't sacrifice that to the god of money or the god of finance or the god of social expectation. Keep it safe. Keep it away from these things. And you can do this the way that I do this, and the way that maybe you kind of inferred is I've really kept my art career and my art business, the financial part of it, very separate from life, from regular life. And I've done that so that I could safeguard myself as an artist. Success as an artist is really about endurance and resilience. I've known more artists who have given up and stopped creating than artists who have continued. That resilience is going to come from you nurturing, fostering, and protecting your creative expression, who you are as an artist. Please don't sacrifice that. If this is beloved, if this is a fulfilling thing for you, do not feel that you must attain, financial success and be able to have this as your full-time job and own a yacht and a house and everything else. Find success elsewhere. Find success in the fulfillment of finishing a piece, of wanting to share it online, of getting that great comment from a friend. Find the fulfillment in the idea that you're doing it, in the idea that you're exploring or experimenting, that you're trying something new, and use that as your energy. And if you can and you want to, keep it separate the way that I did. And you can follow your input and your output financially when it just comes to artwork. And you can see how it's working for you. And that, again, can really help to build confidence. It can help to show us what directions or paths we may want to take or may want to try. And it can just keep us moving as well. It can provide its own momentum through cyclical action. These financial expectations are rough to get away from, but we have the ability to allow ourselves to make this choice. And I talk about allowance a lot. Allowance as an artist, allowance as an autistic individual, allowance as a human being, because we don't give ourselves allowances whether we're holistic or not. But allowance as an artist is really important. Allowance to not feel like success is based on whether or not we have 40 things hanging in a museum, but rather whether or not we want to work again tomorrow when we wake up and we want to create another painting, or we want to try something new with a completely different type of medium. Treat our special interests, treat our love of art as beloved things that are possible means of monetization, but don't build that as the expectation. Yes, this could make me money, and I'm famous as an individual. My friends know that I will monetize any and every hobby that I possibly can. I'm a gig economy worker. I love trying to make money from as many different spaces as possible because I'm going to be doing all this stuff anyway. If you're like me and you have that diverse set of interests and you're also high energy like me, go ahead and try to monetize all of these things. What I do is I don't bring that expectation and level that onto them, because that's just going to make my life a drag. And life is really fun and really exciting. Hopefully we're all at that point, that life is like engaging, and the energy and the input, the stimulative input that we get and that we're capable of receiving is chills worthy, you know? So the last thing I want to talk about is rejection and critique, because it comes back to the first thing that I talked about, which is perception. Rejection, unavoidable. Every single one of us as artists are going to feel this. Whether you are a writer and that's the type of art you do, you are an actor and that's the type of art you do, whether you are a photographer, a painter, an illustrator, whatever you do, rejection is going to be a part of your experience. Critique most likely will be as well. In terms of rejection, my best piece of advice is to feel the emotional reflexive response. It's valid. Feel the sadness, feel the disappointment, feel the frustration, feel the anger if it's there. Make sure that you're allowing yourself to reflexively react to something that is an emotionally driven thing. We're putting out our expression and we're being told no, it's not good enough. But that's really not what we're being told when we're rejected. We're not ever really being told it's not good enough. We're really being told someone else was more appropriate. That's nowhere near as cutting to think about. So it's definitely something to take with you in terms of rejection. And also that initial reflexive response, that reaction that you have initially that you felt and you allowed, is not going to be what stays with you. And that you are going to be able to move forward, and the next day you're going to be able to paint again, or maybe even that day you're going to be able to paint again. Or maybe you need 2 days, and that's something that you need to allow yourself, is 2 days of not being creative to get over the rejection. It's going to happen. My best advice is not to fight it, not to fight the feeling, not to, when we fight it, that's when we start really dogging ourselves, really putting ourselves down and getting just so far down the hole. We can do that with critique as well. And this is a space that I don't want you to do this at all. I really don't want you to come out of critique with anything negative. Critique should always be a positive experience, even when we're told that our work is garbage. About 5 years ago, I did 30 portraits, abstract portraits. Best work I had done to date. I danced with these portraits. I cried with them. I experienced them. I lived with them. I connected with them. I put them up in a show all together, all 30 together. I felt amazing. And at the opening, I got a lot of great compliments, and they were fantastic. And I got one critique that was negative. And it was the most important damn piece of information I have ever received from an audience member in my life. And it was horribly negative. He said, can I be honest with you, Mark? I said, sure, Dave, go right ahead. I think they're grotesque. And I stopped. And I said, oh, okay. And he went on to explain himself. And he used the word grotesque like 3 or 4 times in his explanation. This was not the intent I had. It was not what I was feeling from the work. It wasn't what I was getting. It wasn't what other people had told me they were getting. It was a really effective word to use. Wow, his word choice, his verbiage was specific, particular. It can seem biting or harsh, but I think it was just simply accurate. That it was off-putting to him, but at the same time intriguing, because that's what grotesque is. It's gross, but we're interested. Some people are really into that with their artwork. I was not in that space, and I didn't want to put that kind of energy out there, but that's what he felt. What did I walk away with, though, was the idea is this is how one audience member viewed my work. And that's really all critique is it's the window to the second perception of any piece of artwork. And that's the audience's perception. The first is our own, but there's only ever two. We want to know our work and we want to know ourselves as artists. I want to know myself as an artist as best as I can. If I don't ever get a negative critique or a critique that tells me where I might focus more energy or think differently or approach differently, I'm not going to grow the same way. So Dave's critique of my work being grotesque sat with me. I will never forget it. It sits with me constantly. And it is the absolute just best and most beneficial critique that I got. It did not change my work. It didn't alter what I do. It changed my expectation. And it changed what I know is, you know, now I have another specificity to where work can go and where it'll fit and where it'll actually work really well. And that speaks again to the perception of our own artwork, a perception of our own validity, and the authenticity. That we can take critique even when it's negative, and we can listen to it and we can allow it to affect us. We can allow the negative things that people say about our artwork to sink in. It doesn't have to be horrible, but what that does is it really builds and extends and expands that authenticity that we can then bring to our expression and that we can put on those walls. So hopefully you walk away from this feeling that your work is valid based on your experience as a biological living thing. It takes that little to validate your work, but to take that validation and say, yes, I am authentic. And yes, I can do this. Yes, I can move forward with a positive perspective and a positive outlook. And I can share this energy and get energy back. So if anybody has any questions, that's what I had prepared. I hope that that was informative, and I hope that you feel good. And thank you.
That was, well, I'm not quite sure what to say after that. Do you know what? There was so much amazing stuff you said in that. I'm a little bit gobsmacked. And anyone in here that knows me will know that doesn't happen very often with me being speechless.
Well, I guess that's a good thing then. Yeah, that's a great thing then.
It's a great thing. I've been writing down the questions that the guys have been popping in the chat throughout. So if you're quite happy, I'll just jump straight into them.
Go for it.
So Jay asked a couple of questions. He asked, are you able to do a step-by-step process in creating a bio for him? So it'll be easier for us to like kind of either talk us through a step-by-step, or I don't know if it's something you can maybe do, just write it down and maybe pop it to Zoe and I, and it might make it a bit easier, or an example obviously of your longer one as well.
Okay, so I don't have my example of my longer one right with me, but I can definitely send that to you to make sure that it can be put up. And I'll also I'll make sure that by tomorrow it'll also be up on my website. I'll make sure that my website has a little link on it and people will be able to go there. But generally, in terms of your long form bio, it should really mirror your short form bio, but get a little bit more detailed. So my short form bio, in terms of talking about what I do as an artist, I say something like, further exploring my non-binary, queer, autist personality through artwork. I can mention that, and then I can talk about the different mediums that I work in to fill that space in and to make that space longer. So first paragraph of bio, hey, I'm Mark. I live in Ithaca, New York. I live with my pit bull, and I've been here for so many years. I work as a house cleaner, and I look for artistic and creative opportunities as much as possible. I'm also a volunteer in my local community service center for autistic individuals. That gives people an idea of who I am. Then the next paragraph, I can talk specifically about my work. This is where my work is coming from in terms of intent. This is, what my experience is and what I'm kind of bringing as the energy that's coming in and the fuel that's coming in. This is what I'm using to take that fuel and get it onto a canvas or a piece of paper. I do illustration. I also do abstract portraiture. I enjoy writing, experiential journalism, as well as poetry. You can really sort of expound on yourself as an artist and really what part of the art experience is so great for you and what you do. And then that last paragraph, the last paragraph of the long bio is going to be your accomplishments, the exhibitions that you've been in, where you've shown work. Again, even if that's just Instagram or just a cafe, that matters. And that can be in there. And you can say, that last paragraph, if you don't have any accomplishments, you've never been in a gallery before, you've never had something printed in a journal, you can say, I have over the past year and a half been building a social media following on Instagram, building a network of fellow artists and finding the space. Accomplishment is exactly what it is. And that is an accomplishment. Finding each other, making these connections, those are accomplishments. So even if that's the only thing that you have, you can talk about that, and that can fill in that last paragraph for you.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Awesome.
I hope that helps you on that one, Jay. But if not, obviously we'll send out a copy of Marc's bio. We can send it out, so hopefully that will help. There's another one that kind of came in, which kind of covered, a couple of people asked something very similar. Basically about the communication. So the first question was, what would you do if you're the gallery owner and they don't like it or something like that because of your autism, or you don't get on with them? So how would you go about that communication issue with one, I suppose, going up to someone and saying, hey, can I put my art in here? Or do you do that? And then I suppose, how would you deal with that negative reaction?
Sure. So that's kind of a self-advocacy question in my mind. And I think that comes down to building really positive and good forms of self-advocacy, which is interesting. I am an advisor for a group of adult autistics that I meet with every Monday. And that's what we focus on, is self-advocacy. And I think one of the best approaches here for us as autistic individuals, especially when we're putting ourselves in a position where we have to introduce that idea of ourselves, that we are autistic. We want to use that as a means to have people really understand who we are.
Yeah.
The way that I do it is I don't speak about it in the first person. And instead I look at it as an opportunity to educate rather than to educate someone specifically about me. And what that can do is it can give you, in their mind, a far greater allowance. So it comes down to this for me. Instead of saying, hey, I need this done this way, or I have these challenges, or I operate this way, which sounds intrinsically selfish to other people sometimes, I guess, we can say, so like many autistics, I have issues with spoken communication. So I've written down my what I wanted to communicate with the gallery. Is that okay? Or like many autistics, I have issues with the social aspect of being in a group with a lot of people, and I may not want to show up for the opening. You can approach the idea of autism coming into play as an opportunity to educate and an opportunity to build a positive perception of autism. We have we're fighting against such a strangely inaccurate perception.
Yeah.
That just having that little bit of education, if we're willing and we can find the space to get there where we can supply a little bit of education to people, I've found it changes the conversation completely. And it changes my ability to focus sort of focus the conversation's energy and the communication. So if communication does get to that point where the autism is the issue, I definitely suggest trying trying to push the idea of trying to get that positive perspective, that accurate perspective out there. But then also, don't waste too much of your time. If someone is genuinely prejudiced and has genuine prejudice, and you've tried to sort of open it up, I don't think you need to bring it to a place of conflict or a place that's going to make you feel uneasy or uncomfortable. The longer we sit ourselves in those positions, the more they're going to affect us, and the more negative effect they're going to have. So certainly do your best to educate. And if it doesn't work in the first, 5 minutes, say, hey, thank you so much for your time. I got to go, and walk away. I have never run into that issue, though. I have really only run into people being almost more open to the idea of listening, because I'm very open about it. And it's something that I introduce very quickly. And it's not specifically to take advantage of anything. That's not the idea. It's really because it speaks to my intent and process as an artist, and it speaks to how well I can articulate who I am as an artist. I can talk about being autistic, and I am not afraid to do that. So I definitely suggest trying that first and going the self-advocacy route and saying, hey, if they do have a problem, maybe there's an opportunity to change their mind. But don't sit there for too long. Don't let it get to that point where it's internalized. That's a shaky balance, but
sometimes you're never going to change someone's mind, are you? If they're set on one thing.
Exactly. We can't save everyone. We can't save everyone in life, but we can try. And that's my thing, is I know that I can't, but I know that I can try. So I'm going to still try.
Brilliant. Thank you. Someone asked about how do you go about creating a two-sided card for the business cards?
You want to make sure that you have both. You want to make sure that you have your information on both sides of your cards, unless you're trying to be cheeky like me, where I had just my logo on the one side. But you want to make sure that you have your contact information that is vital to you. If you have a website, make sure your website is on there. If you have social media that you operate more than other social media, make sure that's on there. Phone number, contact, and then examples of your work. In terms of creating a two-sided card, anyone who prints business cards is going to be able to do a two-sided card with two different images for the front and back. So there are a lot of different apps that you can use to create the cards. And what I did was I said, I really want to pick two pieces that are as disparate from one another as possible because of who I am as an artist. I am an experimental artist who works in so many different mediums. So that for me was, hey, I'm going to choose a hand-on piece and a digital piece. I'll make sure that they have some kind of vibe in connection. So if you look at them, they're both about form. Both of these pieces. So there was something that supplies continuity between them. So if you can do that with the two pieces that are on there, that's great. Don't overdo it. Don't throw 10 pieces of artwork onto a card. Nobody's going to be able to see them. One piece per side is really great. If you can get two pieces, one on either side. Those business cards that have different sides cost more money. I think it's worth it. It absolutely is worth it to me.
So just as a second question, I don't know if anyone else might be thinking this as well. So would you just start on getting a small amount to start with and just see how that goes, rather than going all out and getting 300 or 1,000? Just get a small amount, 50 maybe, and see how you go about getting them out there.
Absolutely. So do the 50 or 100 quantity. I used Vistaprint, and one of the great things about using an online source is that you can save the card. So if in a year, 3 years, 5 years, you want to print the same business card, you can. If you need to do it in a month, you can. If you want to change it, you can do it that way. But certainly start with a lower amount. Start with, the 50 or the 100. see how that goes, see where you're putting it out and how many you're going through. And then, you know, make a decision as to more, or make a decision that you want to change it up. And maybe you want to have different business cards the way that I do, depending on where you're looking for opportunity and where that card might fit better than the other card.
Fantastic, thank you. Someone also asked, if you've got any advice on finishing work?
Any advice on finishing work?
It's quite a broad one for this. It was partly if you've started something and then obviously getting around to finishing, but also it could be any sort of finishing work. It could tie in with the portfolio about making it finished. And so I don't know if you need a bit longer time to think about that one.
No, I think I can speak to it a little bit, actually. And I think that it can mirror a lot of other things in our lives and a lot of other sort of behaviors and ways that we can push ourselves forward in other spaces. So when it comes to any task that I approach it with the perspective that finishing is the most important part of the task. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I've built up in myself, in my own perspective and the way that I look at things on my own. But I feel that way about everything, doing dishes, mowing the lawn, really mean things, as well as artwork. That doesn't mean that I always finish. There are times that I am just done and something is just not, you know, it's not working for me. Mm-hmm. But what I have is a folder that I keep everything in. I also have a box that I keep everything in. It's one box, one folder. So only one of each. The box is for canvases, things that are bigger. The folder is for things that are on paper. Yeah. And if that box or that folder gets full, I need to go and I need to start looking through those things and I need to start finishing things. So you're just kind of setting yourself up to have to approach it again. But you're also giving yourself a little bit of allowance in terms of it takes a little while for those boxes or that folder to fill up. But the other suggestion I have is if you have a box and a folder or one of revisit them every once in a while, even when they're not full, and go through that work. Take a look through each one of those pieces, because you may look at one that you were working on 6 months ago, and you may have done a piece last week with a color or a type of media that you're like, oh, wow, that will work perfectly to finish this piece. So go back through, remind yourself of those pieces that are sitting unfinished, and that will help you to finish them, as well as keeping that perspective that really is the goal, that really is the end of any task, the beginning of any task, is that idea that the most important part is finishing it.
Actually getting it complete.
Yes.
I like that idea of having the box and stuff. I've got lots of unfinished pieces that are all over the place. So I think putting it in a box might make it.
It really works for me to keep them in one spot. It makes it so much easier to have to consider them more often as well. I keep them out as well. So they're sort of more in my face when I go into my, my spare room is also my den and my studio. But when I go in there, they're very much present. So I have to see them and be reminded, you know what I mean? That can help too.
Yeah, I'm going to take that advice on that one.
Awesome.
Someone's asked, it's a little bit sort of, might be able to help, but they've asked, would you have any advice on a performance-based artist? Is that something you would be able to touch on?
Oh, I have many friends who are performance artists, and it's something that I have actually really wanted to delve into really, really badly. So the successful performance artists that I've known, the best advice that I can give, drawing from what I see their experience, is the amount that they have shared and where they have shared. Mm-hmm. The more fearlessness you can have, the better off you are. And again, the more you can create opportunity. Performance artists have a great space to work in where they don't necessarily need wall space to hang paintings. You need a certain amount of acreage, on a floor and room to move. So there are many spaces that you can do that in, and that you can sort of offer that opportunity to, including all of the galleries that normal visual artists go to. Anyone who's doing illustration or painting, any of those galleries, for openings, to add that in, to add in the idea of a performance artist, either outside the gallery or inside. I mean, that's just fantastic. So again, creating opportunity, and really all the same stuff too. Knowing who you are as an artist, developing that bio, that resume, that way to articulate what your performance art is about, what you want to translate, and what you want to emit as far as energy, what you want the audience walking away with, all of these things, and creating the opportunity, asking the cafe owners, the tattoo shops, the spaces that you know have more open-minded people. Just go in and talk to them and say, hey, I'm a performance artist and this is what I do. And you could maybe get a group of 15 or 20 people into this place if they knew that this was happening. So let's make some flyers and do it. By all means, the same list of things. Believe in yourself, find that validity, and ride your authenticity like it's the coolest motorcycle you've ever seen in the world, you know?
Fantastic. I'm hoping that was the right, not the right answer completely, because there is no right or wrong answer, but hopefully that's helped on that one. Now we kind of another question which I feel like we possibly have touched on as well, by you saying about having the box of stuff. And someone asked, someone with ADHD as well, how do you stick with one project and stick with that and choose to do that? So that's kind of similar to what we touched on with having a box of people and the box of items in there. So that kind of ties in with that.
Also, you don't need to stick to one project. You are allowed to follow your natural neurological flow. And if that means that you have 15 projects going at a time, you have 15 projects going at a time. I often, I almost never have just one thing that I'm working on. Almost never. It's not how I want to work. It's not how I like to work. It doesn't speak to my natural neurological flow, because I like to jump around. So I will normally have 4 or 5 creative endeavors going at once that I can touch on 2 or 3 every single day. You still want to focus on finishing. You want to focus on making sure that you don't give up on these things and keep on picking up more. At the same time, again, it's really okay to do a number of different things at a time. My partner is ADHD and so is my mom. So I have a lot of experience in terms of seeing that can be a challenge, is opening sort of all of these windows at once and then not knowing which one to go through and not make, you know what I mean? Like just the first thing is, it's okay that you want to open a lot of windows at once. And chances are it's going to speak to the way that you're going to accomplish things, and it's going to help you. At the same time, keep that nugget of finishing in your head. And remind yourself, especially if you are ADHD, remind yourself that last step is the one that is more than likely the one that you are forgetting or missing or leaving behind, is that very last step. So even at the end of the day, one of the things that my partner does is goes around the house and sort of goes into each room and looks at the room and looks at what's in there, reminds himself what he may have been doing in that room, and asks whether he took the last step. Did I finish what I started? So that's a great coping mechanism, I think, is to take that time at the end of the day to go over what we've done and say, hey, where did I get? It also gives us this great energy to see what we've done for the day and say, oh, I wasn't sitting on my butt at all and I got a lot done, you know? So there's that aspect of it too that is positive. It can really help.
That's, I think doing that is almost, someone once told me, try and find one positive thing each day. And by doing that, actually going around and going, I've done that today, I've done that, I've completed that, or I've got this far, actually is helpful. It kind of leads into one of my questions that I was going to ask. Because I get to a point with certain pieces, if I know that they're kind of mean a lot to me, I will absolutely hate them. And I mean hate them in the middle of me doing a piece. The more I hate them, the better they turn out at the end. So that's kind of, I will swap and piece between several. But once you've done those pieces and you say about doing a portfolio, how would you put the portfolio together? Would you mount the pieces? Would you make a physical portfolio? Or is it just literally, here's 12 pieces of my artwork, have a look? Would you?
You have choice there. You never want to use originals for your portfolio. You're never going to be using originals. You're always going to be using copies. The best way to do that, if you can get a scan of your artwork, that's the best way to get a copy produced for a physical portfolio and for a digital portfolio, is to have the work scanned. So there are copy spaces, copy companies that will scan big pieces of artwork, like big canvases and things like that. We don't always have that option, so we can take photographs. You just want to make sure that you're getting as close to accurate representation as you possibly can. The digital portfolio can just be, messes of images, and you can really you can hone those into different specified sort of different folders. So someone can go to a portfolio page and look at a portfolio that's just digital illustration, or is just multimedia painting. Or they can go to your portfolio page and see, this is, my portfolio, my artist portfolio. That's the one that you would more than likely be walking into the gallery space with, or going someplace physical where you're taking that physical portfolio. That would again have copies, 12 to 15 pieces of artwork, really good quality copies of your artwork, quality printed, excellent reproductions, as close to real life as you can possibly get. When you're making those choices, pick your strongest pieces, the ones that you feel most strongly represent you and your work, and what the gallery or the client or whoever it may be, what they're going to get. You want them to have a properly developed expectation of what you're going to deliver as an artist. So build that portfolio around what you're going to then be hanging or supplying to that company. Does that answer your question?
Completely, thank you. Someone's asked, are you able to expand on articulating process and intent?
Prices? Or no, process and intent.
Yeah, sorry.
Articulating process and intent.
Sorry, that was the way I said that then.
Sorry, it's getting a little rock. It was actually the connection. It wasn't you at all. But yes, talking about process and intent, the best way for you to develop a means of articulation for this is to stop and look at your artwork. Do it with pieces that are done. Do it with pieces that you are in the middle of creating. And consider them on a level of critique. And sort of try to put yourself in a more objective space rather than the subjective space as the artist. Try to bring yourself out of there and try to look at the pieces and really understand why you made choices that you have. If your pieces are really textural, is their texture? What is the texture saying? What does that say about you as an artist, that you are thinking about texture? If your work is really stimulative in a number of different, sensory ways, then that's something that you can hone in on. You can hone in on color and say, oh, well, I had sat down to draw my friend Stacy, and so much of her personality is green, and that's why I used green. This speaks to process as well as intent. And each one of these little nuggets speaks to process and intent. And it speaks to things like our color choices as they relate to what we want that to say to the audience, or the size of the brushstroke, or the negative space on the canvas. There's so many different parts of our artwork that are speaking to us. and it's about uncovering that voice and just listening. And it's all there, your intent and your process. And this is so difficult for so many artists. It's not, it is in no way rare for this to be a difficult thing. It's not easy for me either. Explaining our work and articulating is difficult, but all of the information is there. So behind me, there is a sculpture that I did using pallet wood that I found on the side of the road to make these very simple mountains out of chunks of garbage wood and just spray paint. They are not complicated pieces of artwork. They're not intricate. They're not highly detailed or anything else. I could probably sit here for an hour and a half discussing this artwork. What I would start with is, how does it make me feel when I look at it? You don't need to know any more than that to start discussing your process and your intent. How does this make me feel? It makes me feel calm. It makes me feel centered. It makes me feel smaller. And I like feeling smaller. I like the idea that anytime mountain in my environment or in my setting visually, that setting is a little bit calmer. It's also more interesting. So all of these things immediately start speaking to intent and process. And that's why it shouldn't be so hard for us, but it is hard for us because our hands made this. And there's an attachment of physicality, of emotionality, of mentality to these things that exist apart from us. But in that, they have their own voices. So listen to your own artwork. That's where you're going to get it. And you're going to be able to do that. It's all there. All the information is right there.
Let's have a look. So someone's asked, I love this question. What is success for you?
Resilience and endurance, and waking up tomorrow wanting to continue, wanting to paint, wanting to create, wanting to connect through artwork and personal expression. Creation is so important to me, and so much more than art. Creation is more important. I love creation. There's something tied to it that is so satisfying. That's success for me. Satisfaction, fulfillment, daily motivation that I don't need to get from an external source. That's success. It's not money. It's not station. It's not fame. It's not being in a museum or having a million pieces on a wall. It's not being in a journal or having a picture on the cover of the book somewhere. It's literally, have I made it to the next day? Do I still want to be doing this? Because, wow, the examples I've had in my life, again, have been so tilted toward people giving up.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody here to give up. I don't want any artist anywhere to give up. Our voices are so important, and they're so vital. They're so individual. They're so singular. And what we're doing is so different. It's such a different and meaty way to communicate and to express and to connect, to build and grow this ontology, this human ontology, this human system of relationships and our own personal mesh network. So I don't want anyone to give up. And I hate when artists give up. So yeah, success for me is really simple. It's, do I still want to keep doing it? And if I sell some pieces here and there, awesome. If I get a piece on a wall somewhere in a juried exhibition or in a gallery, awesome. I still haven't been in a museum. It's sort of a goal of mine. I really want to hang in a museum at some point. But you know, that isn't a source of anger or resentment or frustration or anything for me. It's just a goal. You know, otherwise I'm incredibly successful that I'm able to and want to create every single day. And I want to share it with other people, and I want to know what they think, and I want to communicate with them about it. There's so much there, so much that's going to supply you with so much more than what money or notoriety would. So that's my version of success.
Brilliant. Now, I think that is a very good question and answer to almost finish on. There's a couple of others I think I've missed in the chat. So I'm sorry if I missed anything for anyone. But Mark, if you're happy, you're right for me to email them to you.
I would love you to email them to me. If anyone wants to Also, if anyone wants to speak to me personally, my email is marc@mbardon.com. You can find it on my website, mbardon.com. It's just MARC@mbardon.com. Any questions, anything like that, please DM me. I won't have time today, but I'll have time tomorrow to get back to everybody. So by all means, I'm always open for that too. It's not just in relation to this. If you have questions that are related to other things that you think maybe I have insight toward, by all means, I am so here, and it's why I'm on this planet. So connect.
Brilliant. I will, from the chat, Zoe saved it for me, so I will send you a message with some of the messages you've been getting on this chat.
Great.
Have been unbelievable.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming and speaking with us. We're just delighted to have you and all of your experience. I'm sure people have gone away with so many tips and things to take on board. So thanks so much, Marc, for coming along.
Thank you. It's given me so much, and I'm walking away with so much happiness and energy. And so thank you. I'm really honored. I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Feel free to come back anytime, or Zoe and I messaged in the middle. We want you to make a podcast just so we can listen to you talk, because it's so motivational and so fantastic. So you're an honorary member whenever you want to come back or join in. Feel free.
Thank you so much. I absolutely will. You'll see me. You will.
Perfect.
Just as a
Go on,
finish,
Louise.
everyone. So this is our last meeting till about the 20th of August, because Zoe and I are taking a much needed break to get our heads around some new projects we have coming for you next month. Hopefully, if we manage to get around to them in time. But yeah, seeing new faces tonight has just been amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah, I think I'd love to do more events like this that kind of help support artists kind of develop further and stuff like that. So yeah, I think we'll definitely try and create more events like this one, because this has just been so informative and so useful. And like I have no interest in selling art or anything like that, but like I'm just like, oh, this just sounds so great. So yeah, no, it was really, really good.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So thank you very much, Marc. Like I said, their loss is our gain, and
yes,
mind blown, absolutely mind blown.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for listening and getting something out of it. It really does make me feel amazing. I'm gonna have like an incredible evening.
Good, that's what we like to hear. Right, so I
Awesome.
think it's fair. But well, it was lovely to see everyone, and we'll see you in a few weeks. But if not, we've